They called them the Doodlebug Villas. These little prefabricated homes were Britain's answer to the housing crisis after the Second World War. 750,000 homes had been destroyed.
For two men can build these emergency houses for doodlebug victims in 3 days. Each with a living room, 2 bedrooms and a kitchenette. They'll accommodate families of 5 with a little extra room to swing a kitten. Wood and asbestos are the main ingredients used.
Labour and materials were in short supply, so in some parts of the country, people resorted to squatting in empty buildings like these army huts. It did prompt quite a lot of public sympathy, though.
I agree with it if there's a genuine case. I mean, say ex-servicemen and all that, they want a decent place to come home for, don't they?
What do you think about it?
Well, on private property I think it's all wrong, but on taking over army camps, I think they're entitled to. After all, they've had 6 years fighting in the army and they're entitled to a home, isn't it?
By the 1950s, the age of the council house had arrived, and this one in Desford in Leicestershire was officially handed over by the then Housing Minister, Harold Macmillan.
Built in 12 weeks for less than £1,000 each, these houses seem one answer to the housing drive. With the living room, dining annex and kitchen downstairs, they have 3 bedrooms upstairs. Women will find their work has been made as simple as possible.
And so a generation were introduced to the joys of indoor toilets and gardens. But as inner city populations grew, planners had to come up with innovative ways of housing people. And so the notion of streets in the sky was born. Back-to-back terraced houses have been cleared to make way for this modern utopia.
People were becoming more and more urbanised, moving to the city. So there needed to be space for people to live in concentrated areas of land, to live near workplaces, and so it was seen as a modern type of architecture, a modern way of living. But it created its own issues as well, around lots of people living in a concentrated space.
It didn't take many years, though, for the walkways in the sky to be covered in graffiti, rubbish and worse. Some became no-go areas. ITV Central reported on the state of the Corbett Street flats in Smethwick in 1970.
When these flats were built 14 years ago, some people thought they were the answer to Birmingham's slum problem. They were going to be the panacea to the city's twilight areas. But the planner's dream hasn't come true. Today, 14 years later, the people here are complaining of silverfish in the flats, of rats around the dustbins, of vandalism running rife all through the buildings.
Well, they're properly slums, aren't they? I mean, you look from the outside and they look ready for demolishing.
When I first come here, it was a pleasure to come into the flats. We used to be proud to say we lived here. But now, when I come in, I'm afraid to tell anybody where I live.
The 80s were a major turning point for social housing. Margaret Thatcher championed the right to buy. Tenants could buy their council house at a generous discount off the market price. 1 million was sold in 10 years, taking huge swathes of social housing out of the reach of the poorest in society. And so it continues today.
I think right to buy is firmly in the frame. It is one of the key issues, and it has resulted in a reduction in affordable housing.
The population of Birmingham is going 3 times as much as the number of housing we're building. So we're constantly behind, and the local authority has no funds. They have faced some of the biggest cuts in the country as a local authority. So they have no scope to actually build the homes that are necessary to make sure everybody in Birmingham has a home, has a roof over their heads.
It's not just a need for more roofs over heads. Those that are living in social housing now are often doing so under extreme duress. Jane Hesketh, ITV News.